in the bicameral, of course, representation of members of parliament and members of the Senate over the Division of Revenue Bill, which continues to have widespread effect or ramifications across the county economies in the 47 devolved units. And we are talking this morning to Dr. Nahashon Moitalel Langat, who is a governance and policy expert. Dr. thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Many thanks for coming. On my immediate right is Shafi Ali. He is the chairperson of the Nubian Rights Forum, Shua here in Kibra constituency. Yeah. Thank you. We do appreciate your time. Asante sana for coming. So starting with you, Dr. from the policy perspective and of course the governance, looking at the what's transpiring at the moment at the corridors of the bicameral house, it literally is a representation or a reflection rather of what transpired hours before Henry Rotich, who is now out of the docket, made the 2019-2020 financial estimates or presented that in the National Assembly. There are cases of failure, and yesterday's sittings were equally punctuated by chaotic scenes, as was the case in the previous time. However, all that happening at a time when the counties are feeling the effect of the cash crunch. Which way out?
What I think the government should come out exactly is to tell us what they have. Do they have the cash first in the first place? Because there should be a clear indication of this is the money we have, these are the loans, and then this is the net or the gross income that we have as a country from the exchequer. Now, from there, we now discuss, is there money? Because we might be arguing, oh, because the president has come out gun blazing saying that there is no money. But now we are still discussing. We still need 15 million more. So if we continue with this debate without knowing if there is real money or not, we'll be just calling the mediation team, and then the mediation team fails. Again, call another mediation team, it fails. We see the battle of egos between the upper house and the lower house, which is the Senate and the National Assembly. But at the end of the day, we are crippling devolution. Because we can't be saying, there's a good point that came out in that discussion where Ministry of Health at the headquarters is allocated 90% of all the cash.
Yet health is devolved.
Yes, health is devolved. So we are now wondering, are we really serious about this devolution? And if we are not serious, tell us. We bring back the health and the infrastructure. All those which are devolved, we can bring them back to the national government. So that that is why the backstop are the CEO of the country, as the president. At some instant, they need to crack the whip and say that this is the stand, there is no money. So he tells the Speaker of the Senate and the National Assembly, no need again for the mediation. Because mediation, that is now where you do allowances. Yeah, and people like that. Because you'll say, now, let's go to Mombasa for mediation. Then the next moment, let's go to Nigeria. So these are a tug of war that might not be won very soon. Very soon. Yeah.
Okay, while the president is sort of course, above the law, he's the person that we'd probably want to listen to. He equally acknowledges that we've gone against the Constitution, what is stipulated in the Constitution, and we've awarded the counties more than expected earlier on. And he says we're not going to do that again. Do you suppose that, Shafi, that the ghosts of going against the Constitution, of not upholding the rule of law, are the ones that are biting us today? We proceeded to sort of give out the budget estimates, as Ayub has said, without having had a conclusion on this, which is basically what was expected.
Of course, what our respected president is saying, he has to come out very clearly and tell us who is not respecting that Constitution. To my knowledge and understanding, it is the Jubilee government who came out strongly not to respect the law, to mutilate the Constitution, and yet challenging other things. For example, when we are talking of what the allocation of money to the counties, President understands very well that this is the role of Senate. So Senate is there to see the interest of the counties. Senate is there to see the relocation, to determine the relocation of the counties. And what we've seen these days, we've seen executive. Is it talking or compromising the parliament to fight the the Senate.
Senate.
While fighting the Senate, my president has to understand that they are killing devolution by fighting the Senate.
Right.
So he has to come out clear and tell Kenyans what is really down there for the counties. Because to my belief, the money is there. The money
Probably
is
to
there.
the belief of the Senate too, because also you look at the aspect of them coming up with realistic, allocations, and that is basically where the argument is, or the bone of contention is. It's okay, you're asking for money, but this money is not here, or better yet, you're asking for money that is way too much. Maybe you should just work with what is there before, asking for more. Try and see whether this one can work. Try and see whether you can generate more revenue. So, is there something that the Senate knows very well in terms of the money that is on board that, of course, we probably do not know?
Of course, the money is there.
Yeah.
That is number one. Number two, if they have to go with what is there, they have to be properly assured that they'll be given the balance. Because I think this is what is not there. Of what we are seeing yesterday in Parliament, we have seen a pointing finger to each other.
Yeah.
As if our leaders are not understanding what mediation is. So the truth of the matter is the money is there, but the money is being allocated to an institution where they know very well we put that money there and we'll go after it. And we are talking to a money which will be given to counties. An ordinary Kenyan down there is waiting for service delivery.
All right. And those services are halted as per, of course, the discussions that continue to unravel at the county level. Dr. and then I'll come to you. Yes, we have this sort of push and pull factor between members of the bicameral House. Equally, the Senate does present itself as the savior of devolution, yet the National Assembly is seen from the lenses of the Senate and, of course, the devolved units, to be specific, the Council of Governors, as people who want to put hurdles on the way of the devolved system of governance in the country. What is the way out? Where is the political conscience here around what needs to be done in terms of safeguarding the infancy of what we have incepted in 2013 and equally enshrined in the 2010 Constitution promulgated on the 27th of August 2010?
First of all, we need to know from the president's side what is the legal direction. We have an Attorney General whose work is to advise the president of the country. If we know that this is the position, that this is the amount that the Constitution says should be given to the county, and for the mediation purposes, let's give them an allowance of this and this amount. From there now we'll have a direction. And then we will avoid these negotiations which are, and we don't have an end to it. Because if we don't do this, if we don't bring this to an end, we'll continue up to next year. Because as we speak, there are counties who haven't been paid salaries.
Wow.
Now, if you haven't been paid salaries, how do you expect to be treating patients in a remote part of the country? How can you be rendering services without being tempted to be corrupt? So, in the first instance, devolution is crippled, and if we want to bring this to an end, we'll continue like this, and then there'll be a blame game.
Moving on.
On who is supposed to be blamed.
Yes, we can only hope that it does not go to next year. At least the matter is at the Apex Court. And of course, they're set to go back there in September the 9th to address this and tell us what, or maybe tell the Chief Justice what they have come up with as a solution to this particular stalemate. We'll continue with this discussion, but first, I think it's important that we listen into what some of these leaders had to say so we can proceed from basically, picking out on their utterances and just trying to read in between the lines on basically what they were saying.
And these monies are eaten in the counties. Why are you people fighting for this money like this? This money is when they're eaten in the counties, you're not there.
That if you do a proportion of 2.5 billion shilling increase to counties, is that the same proportion you have done for national government? The answer is no.
Even when we agree here, it is not automatic that both houses will pass. I am beseeching the senators, or I'm asking them, let's agree the 316. If the economy does well from now to January, we will have a supplementary budget and we can increase the 10 or 15 billion that you want.
So when you are allocating money, don't point fingers at me as if I'm asking for something that is not going to benefit you. So let's reason together. And the reasoning together is this. Is it possible that we can bridge the gap between 316?
And even to a layman out there, the head of the national government said, I have no money to give out.
If we need to look for the 19.6 billion, and the 19.6 billion can only be sent from what national government is clawing back from the health, which Senator Kongo Mogeni has spoken about. In fact, we can resolve this by sending it as shareable revenue, but make it conditional.
Now we are sitting here. Chair, you can call the 2 clerks of parliament to come and sit here and tell us whether they can give us 6.5 billion.
Can we find a better formula of discussing figures as opposed to listening to one another about the fact that this is stuck in stone? Because if it's stuck in stone, this mediation then must end and fail. Thank you.
If we agreed, we call the speakers to say kama ni judiciary, we are reducing, kama ni nini tunadu, and now kwa county pia, you senators, we also know how do they reduce the expenditure in the county government also.
Well, all in the best interest of devolution. Shafi, we see a very rigid Senate that is set to get what they want. And for a moment, well, not from what we've seen, but at some point in time, Honorable Duale was heard saying that if this is to happen, then probably, this is now coming from the National Assembly, which has been disputing this. Yeah. And then they say, if at all this is to happen, then it probably should be under supplementary, budget or something of the sort. Is it a sign that they're likely to bend to what the Senate is asking for? Because then, if they do not, the taxpayer is likely to bear the brunt. And, if at all this is going to proceed in a different angle, or better yet, what was proposed earlier on, that maybe they should go to sort of try and reduce the amount of money that the executives get so that they can top up to this.
Okay, according to what we heard from our Ishimiwas, Senate has to stand for the interest of the counties. And that is for service delivery to Wanjiko down there. And Duale and our fellow MPs has to understand their roles very clearly. Simple because whatever they are doing, calling it mediation and pointing finger to one another, it will come up with absolutely nothing. Rather than wrangles and wrangles and wrangles. They are not talking about a lot of money taken to some institution of government which are questionable. How will it be used? And at the end of it, it will go to some individual pockets. So we want both parliament to come out very clear. And first of all, I have a query with budget making. Budget making, if you see treasury and you see members of parliament, we have this Article 281, where Parliament has been given a chance for a public participation.
Right.
But our budget is being made without any person down the
involved.
Involved.
Yeah.
So that's another problem. So we want to see a government who is respecting its people. They should not go up there. They are representative of the people. They have been taken there by the people, not to tell people now we become your boss. They are there to work for these people. So they have to come up with a proper mechanism
that is going to
for
protect.
adequate public participation and to protect the interests.
Before Ayub comes in, what are the likelihoods, Doctor, that this is going to come in to protect the people? Because from where, even before we can tell where it is going to go, you can almost read the lines and you can almost see some level of, just bowing down of the members of the National Assembly. When we start talking about, of course, a supplementary budget, when we start talking about, the likelihoods of the taxpayer bearing the brunt in the event that maybe this is granted, then it's a clear indication that maybe that's where we're headed. And if we're headed there, how is this then going to come in to protect the common mwananchi? Or again, it is going to pinch them even harder?
No, if the Senate play their oversight role, they will benefit, because the Senate, together with other state agencies, which is like the control of the budget and the Auditor General, let's say now, this is the money you have been given. And unfortunately, most of the money that go to the counties are on recurrent expenditure, like the salaries. Now, if the extra money now goes to the service provision, actually we are talking about the money we need at the counties are for the service provision.
Including development.
Including development. So, but unfortunately, you realize that most of the money goes to to the current, and then what remains for development is just a drop in the ocean. Yeah. Now, if these state departments or state agencies that really, I have to say that we have been given now 310 or 16 or 340 million per county has been released to the counties. Is this money really going to what is expected? Because again, at the end of the day, the person to suffer is the mwananchi.
All right.
Yeah. So it needs a lot of oversight, a lot of the strictness in terms of if there is any misappropriation, let the EACC, let the DPP come in with the help of other independent state agencies, so that the common mwananchi doesn't feel the pinch.
All right, the pinch is already felt across more than 20 counties now, whose employees or staff are on strike, and they did, of course, announce that prior the development that we are having, or we did have yesterday at the National Assembly chambers, where the bicameral members of parliament from the Senate and the National Assembly could not manage to agree on a common position. There was no consensus on the division of revenue bill, a matter that continues to have widespread consequence on the 47 counties. So, gentlemen, we hit the break here on the program. When we come back, we'll turn our attention to another important story, the government's plan to introduce a cancer vaccine for young girls to prevent the cervical cancer, which is on the increase in the country. Of course, it did take the life of the late Bomet County Governor, that is Dr. Joyce Laboso, who demised because of cervical cancer, and generally the fight against cancer. What needs to be done in terms of the government upping its game to ensure that Kenyans are universally covered, of course, an element or pillar in the President's Big Four agenda. We are coming back after the short commercial break here on the program, so stay tuned.